Almost every culture on Earth imagined the same impossible thing, a woman who is also a serpent, living underground, guarding knowledge we were never supposed to have. The Greeks feared her and called her Lamia. The French married her and called her Melusine. Medieval painters even gave the Serpent of Eden a woman's face. But Anatolia did something no one else dared. It made her the hero. A queen. A healer. Her name is Shahmaran, the Shah of Snakes, and her story ends not in a garden, but in a bathhouse in Tarsus, with the man she loved leading her killers to her door. And when it's over, you may look differently at the oldest logo in medicine, a serpent, coiled around a staff, and wonder how far back it really goes. The story begins, as so many do, with greed. A poor young man named Jamsab and his companions found a cave sealed over a fortune, some say honey, some say treasure. They lowered him down on a rope to pass it up. And when the last of it was raised, they left him there. Sealed the mouth. Kept his share. Alone in the dark, at the bottom of the world, Jamsab did the only thing left to do, he dug. And the wall gave way, not into a grave, but into light. He crawled through into a garden that no sun had ever touched, and it was full of serpents, thousands of them, and every one of them turned toward a throne. On it sat a being that stopped his heart, a woman to the waist, crowned, and below, the coiled and shimmering body of a great snake. This was Shahmaran, Queen of all Serpents. A man who fell into her kingdom uninvited should have died there. Instead, she looked at the frightened, half-starved boy, and she showed him mercy. She did not just spare him. She taught him. Shahmaran held the oldest knowledge in the world, the secret language of plants, which root closes a wound, which leaf breaks a fever, which flower stops a heart, and which one starts it again. She poured that knowledge into Jamsab the way you pour water into dry ground. Years passed in that glowing dark. The frightened boy became a man, and somewhere in those years, the Queen of Serpents and the human she had saved fell in love. He could have stayed forever. But he was human, and humans, even happy ones, begin to miss the sun. When he finally asked to go home, she did not rage, and she did not refuse. She only grieved. She knew something he didn't. Go, she told him. But make me one promise. Never tell a living soul that you have seen me. Never lead anyone to this place. Because the day a human king learns that Shahmaran is real is the day I die. Jamsab swore it on everything he had. He meant it. He meant it the way people always mean the promise they are about to break. Above ground, in the city of Tarsus, a king was rotting on his throne. No physician could name his illness, and none could cure it. But the king had a vizier, and this vizier had read the forbidden books. He knew there was one cure on earth for a sickness like this. The flesh of Shahmaran. Boiled and eaten. There was only one problem. To cook the Queen of Serpents, you first have to find her. And only one kind of person can, someone who has already been in her presence. Someone whose body still remembers her touch. The vizier knew an old secret: anyone who has touched Shahmaran's skin carries a mark. Step into hot water, a public bath, and where her scales once brushed you, your own skin turns to scales. So the king gave a decree that must have sounded like madness to his people, every man in Tarsus, into the baths. All of them. Stripped and inspected. One by one they passed the test, until a poor healer named Jamsab stepped into the steam, and across his chest, silver scales bloomed like frost. The whole room went quiet. He had kept his secret for years. His own skin gave her up in seconds. They did not have to torture him for long. A dungeon, a threat to everyone he loved, and the healer broke. Jamsab led the king's soldiers back across the dry hills to the cave he had sworn never to reveal, back down into the glowing dark, toward the throne of the woman who had saved his life and taught him everything he knew. He would tell himself, for the rest of that life, that he had no choice. Shahmaran would tell him something kinder and worse. She did not run. She did not hide. When Jamsab came through the wall with soldiers at his back, Shahmaran was waiting on her throne exactly as he had left her, and the first thing she did was forgive him. "I always knew," she said, "that it would be you. It is always the one you save. It is always the one you love." And then, condemned by the man she loved, the Queen of Serpents did the most unbearable thing in the entire legend. She told them how to cook her. Her body, she told them, was medicine, but medicine that had to be divided correctly, and here she laid a trap inside her own death. "Boil my tail," she said, "and give that broth to the vizier who hunted me. It will give him what he has earned." "Poison. Boil my body, and give it to your dying king. It will heal him." "A cure. And my head," here she looked only at Jamsab, "boil my head, and drink it yourself. It will not kill you. It will make you the greatest healer who has ever lived. Take the wisdom I gave you, and take the rest of it too. Let something good survive me." She was betrayed, and captured, and about to be boiled alive by her betrayers, and she used her last breath to make sure the right people got poison, medicine, and wisdom. Exactly the right people. And here the legend does what the best legends do, it lets greed choose its own punishment. The vizier, who had read the forbidden books, who knew Shahmaran's wisdom lived in her head, could not bear to let the healer have it. He would drink the head himself and keep the ultimate knowledge for the throne. So he swapped the bowls. He drank the part he thought was wisdom. It was the tail. It was poison. The vizier who hunted the Queen of Serpents was killed by the Queen of Serpents, exactly as she had planned, drinking her death while he thought he was drinking her wisdom. The king recovered, the body was medicine, as she promised. And Jamsab, left with the head almost by accident, drank it, and the last of Shahmaran's knowledge entered him. In the stories, he does not stay Jamsab. He becomes Lokman Hekim, the legendary physician of the East, the man who could cure any illness, who understood the language of every plant. Everything he was, he owed to a woman he betrayed. Everything he knew, she gave him twice, once in life, and once in her death. So who was the monster here? Not the snake woman. Shahmaran never lied, never harmed, never hunted anyone. She saved a drowning boy, she taught him to heal, she loved him, and when he handed her to her killers she forgave him and healed his king and made him the greatest doctor in the world. Every cruel act in this story was human. Every act of mercy was hers. That is the quiet horror of Shahmaran, not that a monster lived under the ground, but that we found one, and she turned out to be kinder than we were. The Greeks made their serpent woman a devourer. Genesis made theirs a tempter. Anatolia made hers a queen who dies forgiving us and heals us on the way out. Now, look up from the screen. Here is where the legend refuses to stay in the past. Walk into a home in Mardin, or Tarsus, or anywhere across southeastern Anatolia, and there is a real chance Shahmaran is watching you from the wall, painted in bright colors on the back of a pane of glass, crowned, coiled, hung by the door to bring wisdom, healing, and protection to the house. Not as a decoration. As a guardian. This is a myth that never became a museum piece. It is still doing its job on living room walls right now. In Tarsus there is a bathhouse that still carries her name. And the strangest inheritance of all, the idea that a serpent holds the secret of healing, did not stay in Anatolia. Look at the sign over your pharmacy, a single snake, wound around a staff. Look at the symbol of medicine itself. Half the world map dreamed the same dream, that the deepest knowledge of the human body was guarded by a snake, and long before there were hospitals, people in Anatolia already knew her name. They still hang her by the door. Anatolia's oldest crossroads gave the world a serpent it could love. But not every spirit on this map is kind. Next time, we go into the dark corner of the folk tradition, to the thing that waits in the room where a mother gives birth. Red-haired, and hungry, and older than Islam itself, the Alkarısı. Subscribe, and maybe leave a light on. The deep parts of the map only get darker from here.